Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report Podcast brought to you by our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briar-Greaves Insurance are the best people in the business to work with. Visit briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Wednesday edition of the Pewter Report Podcast, and we're going to be talking about not this year's draft class. We spent a lot of time on them, and we will continue to throughout the whole year. We're going to talk about last year's draft class as everyone's going into year two. Which Bucs second-year player can improve the most? Will Bucky Irving continue to dominate in the backfield? What about Chris Braswell, who you see on the screen there? What type of season will he have in year two? We're going to talk all about it and get into some current news as well. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me, a very special guest returning to the show. You can find him on the Pat and Aaron Show Monday through Fridays on WDAE. He's a great person, a great radio host, and an even better golfer. Aaron Jacobson joins the show this afternoon. Aaron, thank you for coming on. How's it going?
You just told 3 lies to start the podcast. That's not good.
You're a really good golfer and a great radio host.
You're a really good golfer. The other stuff, forget about that. Those are 2. All right, 2 lies. 2 lies.
No, you are a fantastic golfer. But thank you so much for joining the show. How's life treating you right now?
Good. Everything's good. I mean, listen, the football machine is so 24/7 that, over the years, tell me if I'm wrong. It feels like over the years, maybe I've just gotten more into it, but it seems like everything is more elevated. Everything is like next level. I don't know if that's social media, the explosion of social media, so we can really hype everything up and everything can be dissected left and right. But it just seems like even if the NBA playoffs are going on, which I know, I'm excited about tonight with the Knicks.
Bing bong.
Bing bong. Even if, you've got the Stanley Cup playoffs going on, you got majors in golf, there's always just seems to be an NFL story that takes over.
No, it's very true. I think social media has really heightened what was true all along, but now it's more tangible, is that the NFL is king. The NBA used to own Christmas, not anymore. Now it's the NFL's day. And even just the schedule release also was something where, you kind of stop in your tracks and go, okay, what team is doing what in terms of their, graphics and things like that. So on that topic, what'd you think of the Bucs draft video? I know they went with John Gruden. I felt like it was better than in years before, but your overall opinion?
Well, you use Gruden, you got to use a personality, right? And Gruden has it hit on all cylinders. First of all, we know Gruden coming back into the family and how important that is to elevate that and use a guy like John Gruden, who is such a big personality, has ties to the Buccaneers. I think it was a good decision. I thought it was fun. It was entertaining. My co-host, my buddy that you know very well, Pat, didn't like that it was like random order. He wished it would have been the proper order instead of random, but I still think it was entertaining.
Yeah, that would be one of my gripes as well. It's like, well, why didn't you just start with week one? And even if he went out of order with how he looked at every player and matchup and stuff, you can just kind of like edit it together and have it, go 1 through.
I got nervous with the knife at first. He was like, I got this knife. Like, be careful with that knife, coach.
Yeah, well, that's like part of his bit is teams send him stuff and he has trouble opening up the box. So that's like kind of half the fun and half the magic. But I thought it was a job well done by Tampa Bay overall, which leads me to my next thing I want to ask you about. We're going to get into current news and talk about last year's draft class and second-year players for the Bucs. But looking at this upcoming season with the Bucs, I guess let me start with, how did you feel about the Bucs before free agency in the draft, and how do you feel about them after now? Do you feel better, worse, or around the same?
I felt great about them before, and I feel a little better about them after. I think Jason Light, and it starts with Jason Light, how consistent he's been. And there's all the there's fans that are going to go, oh, but what about Roberto Aguayo?
Yeah.
Well, but what about it? All right. Like GMs over 10 years, over a decade, and not many get to do that. But if you're doing it for over a decade, you're going to make a couple picks that aren't great. But the Buccaneers have been set up over draft classes over the last previous years. Since the Tom Brady era, they've just built on this. They built on the momentum from that era. bringing in Baker Mayfield, having a quarterback, a franchise quarterback, certainly changes that. It becomes a destination. Tom Brady made it a destination. Baker continued it as a destination. And I think you look at the last couple of drafts, and especially last year, like setting this team up in the right direction. You have the guys, of course, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Vita Vea and guys. Vita Vea, a guy that's drafted, but guys that have been here. But Tristan Wirfs, the offensive line set up. But the last couple of years, you hope Yaya Diaby takes another step. Kalijah Cansey, Bucky Irving, Jaylen McMillan. These are guys the last couple of years that are a big part of this team and are going to continue to be a big part of this team. So, I haven't even brought up the offensive line. Graham Barton. You had Tristan Wirfs. You drafted Luke Gedeke. You got your left. You got your right side. How about your center? A guy who could be with his team for 10 years. So Jason Light has systematically picked apart the draft over the last couple of years to make sure that he's fitting the mold for what this team needs to compete for not just 1 year, not just 2 years, but years to come.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you, Aaron. I mean, this league is all about what have you done for me lately? And yet it feels like some people in Tampa too, but overall, people hold the mistakes that Jason Light has made with this team and in the draft, like you mentioned with Roberto Aguayo, they hold him to like more discredit than they do like giving the Bucs credit for their last 3 to 4 draft classes. And I think this one has the potential to be pretty good too. And the biggest thing that I've really seen from the Bucs over the past couple of years is that they don't get desperate for certain positions or certain players. Everyone thought they were going to go with the linebacker, and then they were like, well, there wasn't a good linebacker class, so we didn't just say, oh my God, we need a linebacker, we're going to go take one. No, they waited and they found right guys at the right position. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest things is that every year you see a team get desperate. They draft a quarterback for the sake of drafting a quarterback and not because it's the one that they like. And that hasn't been Tampa Bay.
I think it's such a good point. And Jason Light goes back to Jason Light and really the entire team around Jason Light of being able to walk into a draft room, tune out the fans, understand that the people in that room know more than the fans. They know more than us. Yeah. Right? I would have said you're nuts if you're going with a receiver in the first round with all the needs on defense. But you just have to end. Jason Light's sitting back there laughing at us because he's going, hold on, I've been through this before. There are guys on that draft board that a lot of people are high on, and they're going to go high in the draft. But we know better. We've seen them. We've evaluated them, and they don't work for us. They don't fit for us. And then you have guys that fall to them later in the draft that they'll tell you they love. They had them high on their draft board. They can't believe they fell to them. And I don't think that's BS. I believe that. So you just have to sit back and understand these are the people that have been doing this and are good at their jobs. And yes, we love to make predictions, and we also like to pick apart what this team needs. And sometimes you got to recognize that the patience of what you just said, being able to wait and let the guy come to you, let that draft come to you. It's had success for the Bucs in the past.
It has, and that's been a big story for Jason Light, too. I mean, think about it, Aaron. There are other teams in this league that would have fired Jason Light before he even got the opportunity to say, hey, I can bring in Bruce Arians, and if I get Bruce, I could probably bring in Tom Brady. There are many other teams that wouldn't even have given him that opportunity because we're in such a results-based business, and understandably so. Like, sometimes you can't wait too long, but thankfully the Bucs did wait a little bit more for everything to come home to roost for Jason Light. And now you see the team that it currently is. There was some current news that went on today. There was more voting that went on with rules and all this stuff. And some rules are a little more annoying than others. But the Tush Push was voted on today. And the Tush Push is staying, which means Vita Vea and company will get to go up against the Eagles this upcoming season. Aaron, what was your thoughts about the Tush Push in general? Do you like it in the NFL? Should it be gone? What do you think?
My thought is, who cares? Like, right? Like, it's only really okay. So the Eagles successfully use it a lot. The Bills successfully use it a lot. Other teams that use it, not a lot, has success with it. I think the rest of the league is at like 60-something%, 70% success, and the Eagles and the Bills are higher. All right, so use it yourself. Figure out a package to get it done. Now, I understand the wanting to stop or thwart injuries, make sure that doesn't happen, preemptive about it, because, I can understand. Look, it's a very dangerous play. But ultimately the Packers look like babies. And that's it.
I think no notes there. I mean, the fact that the Packers, and great by the Eagles after it wasn't passed and the Eagles put up a picture of them running the tush push against the Packers. It's a soft move by them, because if you want to cry about player safety in of itself is very important. But don't put this label of player safety on something where it's just like, hey, this team's really good at it, and you're mad that they're good at it, and you're not better at it.
Go beat it.
It's the same thing. Like, I'm all for international play. I think it's great that the teams are going overseas, but don't stick two teams with a ton of talented players on this slip and slide type of field and type of grass where guys are tearing ACLs and pulling ligaments left and right, all for the sake of, hey, we're growing the game, where it's like, shut up. Like, you don't care about player safety when you're also going to add another game into the regular season, and maybe we'll give you an extra bye week.
Go get yourself a Desmond Watson if you want to stop it. All right. Like,
yeah,
like, there's guys you can get to stop this. And on that note, yeah, for Bucs fans, it's a little easier to take the ruling and accept it because you've got Vita Vea, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
You've got Desmond Watson, who knows what's going to become of Desmond Watson. But regardless of that, like, you feel comfortable that you actually have had success stopping it.
Right. And I hope they get into a situation where the Eagles have to run it again, and it's big Desmond Watson making a play. Obviously, if Vita makes a play, awesome, but I just want to see that stadium erupt with Desmond Watson, coming into a game. He's got to make the team, of course, but coming into a game and, being the tush push stopper once again. By the way, for those tuning in, we are joined by Aaron Jacobson of the Pat and Aaron Show. You can follow him on Jacobson at Jacobson on air. Excuse me. Very happy to have you on. Friend of the program, like I said, I've been on before. Let's get into today's topic, talking about the Bucs' second-year players and what type of season they may have. I was going to go in draft order, but I think it's more important to go with the headline-worthy guys. So I think we got to start with Bucky Irving going into year two. Statistically, it says that he only started for 3 games, but we all know that's ridiculous. And he was the bell cow of this team once he really started taking the reins late October, halfway through the season or whatever the case may be. It's interesting to try to determine and predict the type of year that Bucky Irving will have, because on the one hand, he's going to be the starter from day one and get a lot of those opportunities. But he's also a tiny guy and can get beat up pretty quickly. So with that said, can Bucky Irving get into, like, maybe not MVP, but that all-pro Pro Bowl conversation? Or will his size just kind of limit him to a spark, a flash in the pan, a guy that can be amazing, but can you get him for all 17 games?
I mean, how can you really predict that?
Yeah.
It's hard. You saw him last year. Did he get beat up? Yes. Did he also run for over 1,100 yards, not being the starter the entire season? Yes. Did he catch for almost 400 yards? Yes. Can he do it all? Absolutely. So it's hard to go, how durable is he? You saw early on, a lot of people, remember, we were like, why isn't Bucky starting yet? Why?
Yeah.
He clearly is the guy. I don't think that's because Bucky, wasn't good enough to do it. I think it's because he was a rookie and the durability is a factor. The league is tough. It's much harder than college. It's a wear and tear on the body. So it's the beauty of being able to, in this league, especially now, you have to do it. But with this team, having Rachaad White, having a guy who was considered the starter early last year, obviously he's good enough to be a number 2 guy. So Bucky gets the load. Rachaad takes some of the load off. And, of course, a guy you bring in different situations, and you're going to have other options for that as well. Sean Tucker, who knows what's going to happen with Sean Tucker. He emerged last year, but a little odd why he didn't get more opportunities after he emerged. So we'll have to see. But for Bucky, the sky's the limit if he stays healthy. But you could say if for about everybody.
Yeah, that's fair.
There are guys that are undersized in this league that are able to figure out ways to avoid, and I know Bucky, is a guy who enjoys taking contact and running through it. But he's gonna have to maybe change his running style a little bit to make sure he's not taking as big of those hits and being able to be durable. But for this guy, of course, he can be all pro. I mean, look at what he did not as a starter last year, and even as he got more opportunities as the year went on, he showed us he is absolutely that guy and more.
I feel like Bucs fans have gotten the luxury over the past couple of years where one of their draft picks just becomes not just like a good pick, but an insane pick. Like, who saw Bucky Irving, a 4th-round pick, becoming one of the sensations of the league? You know, it reminds me of like 2020 when Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield Jr. just right out of the gate were incredible players and so important to them winning the Super Bowl.
Devin White for a flash, too.
What's that?
Devin White for a minute.
Yeah. So hopefully Bucky is more of the Tristan and the Antoine than the Devin White. But I don't think there's any question. Sure, there are additions to the offensive line when they brought in Ben Bredesen and drafted Graham Barton. But that running game, the difference in it, I think, really was Bucky Irving that is the main culprit in all the right reasons for it.
Yeah, but I think you're right. To mention the offensive line is something you have to do when you talk about how that run game evolved and went from one of the worst to one of the best. You have to mention the offensive line and their evolution too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. 2 players that they took in last year's draft. Obviously, Graham Barton was the first overall pick, and then they took Elijah Klein in round 6. I think Klein will be important in the backup area, especially with Robert Hainsey leaving. But Aaron, what I think is so important, and we're not going to sit here and break down all offensive line play because there are other experts for the offensive line. But the fact that you get this entire unit back, they're all under contract, not just for next season, but for several years. The only one that isn't is Luke Gedeke. But I mean, I'd be shocked if he doesn't get a contract extension this year. This is a group that, with the development of Graham Barton, can be great, not just for like a season or two, but really for the next 3 to 4 years.
It's so impressive to watch an offensive line come together. And they have to play as a unit. We know that. But if you think about how this offensive line has come together over the years, the lineage, if you will. I mean, you think about Tristan Wirfs and where he started on the right side.
Yeah.
And he had to move over because Donovan Smith. And you move over Tristan Wirfs to the left side, doesn't have any problem at all. You had Luke Gedeke, who struggled early in his career on the left side. So you move him out to right tackle and you go, I think he's better equipped for this position. You completely flip him, and in different ways, obviously. And they both, Tristan Wirfs was going to be good anywhere. He didn't have any issues, but becomes the guy that he is on the left side, left tackle, after starting his career at right tackle. And then Luke Gedeke doing what he's doing on the right side. Graham Barton being the right pick. Ben Bredesen with his versatility, but being able to come in here and just be solid for this team. Really impressive, and just been overall entertaining to watch the evolution of this line come together because, like I mentioned, the previous years before that, it was ugly.
It was very ugly. And the fact that Jason Light, I guess all roads come back to Jason Light anyway. The fact that a couple years ago, like you mentioned Donovan Smith, he goes to the Chiefs. Even before that, you had Alex Kappa leave for the Bengals in free agency. Ryan Jensen had a career-ending injury. And then Ali Marpet also just decided to retire, which is completely his own right. But the Bucs didn't game plan to lose 3 offensive linemen that offseason. And then a couple of years later, they have all of these guys intact. And then Tristan Wirfs, there was an announcement today as well with all the voting that there is going to be a Protector of the Year award. It's going to go to the best offensive lineman. I love this for the sheer fact that this is just another accolade that Tristan Wirfs can add to his resume and eventually get him a gold jacket in the Hall of Fame.
What a name for an award, Protector of the Year. You are the Protector of the Year. Like, would you rather be, your offensive lineman of the year, or would you rather be the Protector of the Year?
Oh, definitely Protector of the Year. It kind of reminds me of, like, if anyone's a Game of Thrones fan, being a Protector of the Realm, or whatever that is.
Or the throne.
Yeah, Protector of the Throne. Forget Bodyguard. I'm a protector of said client, whoever it may be.
I protect nobody.
I'm looking out for number 1. That's all. No, I'm just kidding. I'll protect whoever's in the room with me, and the real ones, of course. Let's stick with the offense still. So we'll put that. I wonder if that could be a prop bet eventually. Protector of the Year, Tristan Wirfs. It'll probably be like minus 450 or something like that.
You think so?
No, that was more of hyperbole. But
yeah,
I mean, it's going to be what? Tristan. It's going to be Lane Johnson. It's going to be the thing is they're going to give it, and this is where it helps Tristan. they're going to give it to more of the established offensive linemen before some like new, young, and up and coming guy. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the first 2 years it's going to be essentially a lifetime achievement award for Trent Williams and then Lane Johnson.
Yeah, yes, I can see that for sure.
Maybe they'll eventually do it by position, and then everyone will complain about this, or they'll change it to that, and then they'll complain about that, and then change it to this. But moving on to wide receiver, Jaylen McMillan was one of the players that was drafted. We can talk about Devin Culp a little bit too, the tight end. But where do you see Jaylen McMillan fitting into the offense this year? Because he was wide receiver 3, but now you have Chris Godwin returning injured. And then, of course, Emeka Egbuka was the first-round pick and Tez Johnson being the 7th-round pick this year. McMillan ended the season doing really well, but how do you envision him going into 2025?
It's really tough to know. I have to assume early on we're going to get to see a lot of Jaylen McMillan because, like you mentioned, with the injury to Chris Godwin last year, who knows what that's going to be like as far as getting him fully back to Chris Godwin, getting him back on the field and getting him playing. But you look at Emeka Egbuka, and you know as a first-round draft pick that they're going to get him going, right? I wonder how much that fuels Jaylen McMillan to go, all right, I know they love me. I know they believe in me, but they went out and got another weapon. And now, even though that's my teammate, that's a guy that I want to show, like, I can compete with this guy as well. So I think it's going to be tough to see the usage for him be like it was last year at the end of the year when Chris Godwin got hurt. They really leaned on him, and he evolved, and he got much better than he was from earlier in the season. But I think we'll have to see, and it kind of goes to Baker Mayfield of like, who's the hot hand, who's he feel comfortable with in this offense, and he got comfortable with McMillan as the year went on. We know how he feels about Mike Evans in that comfort zone. We know when Chris Godwin's back on the field, his comfort zone there. But I think the more the merrier. They've got a ton of weapons. So for Jaylen McMillan, I think you got to let the fact that they drafted a receiver in the first round fuel you, right? Be a great teammate. And I have no doubt that he will be. I think there's no divas in this wide receiver room. And just keep building off what you did last year. Year 1 to year 2, we always know how big of a jump that is, just knowing the speed of the NFL. So for Jaylen McMillan, having gotten a crash course in that, especially when Godwin got hurt, I think he's going to take, when he's on the field, he's going to be extremely productive.
I think the biggest thing for Jaylen McMillan this upcoming season is just to not try to do anything out of like his orbit. I can understand getting a little top heavy with thinking, oh, like Mike's here, Chris is here. They drafted a guy first round. Like, I got to go above and beyond. I think the best thing for him could just be to stay the Jaylen McMillan that he is, because Josh Broussard is widely regarded as this genius. So he's going to find different things to get guys open. And I think that continues with Jaylen McMillan. I mean, just building that trust with Baker Mayfield, I think was more important than anything else. And I just think that we're going to see more of like 4 wide receiver setups this year. Like, part of why Emeka Egbuka was brought in was because of all the injuries to wide receiver last year. So you avoid that this time around, but at the same time, you could still put your best players available onto the field. And I think that benefits everybody, especially with Egbuka also being more of a physical wide receiver. I want to see a situation where you have 4 wide receivers, no tight ends, and yet you run the football because you trust Egbuka and Chris Godwin to get the blocking done. But I think McMillan is going to be important in the first half of the season. If Godwin's not all the way up to speed right away, Egbuka is still a rookie where McMillan has seen it before. But I'm very intrigued by what he'll be able to do this year. On that topic of Baker Mayfield, though, a very exciting players, made the Pro Bowl the last 2 years, but as an alternate. I want to make sure that is mentioned. It was as an alternate because somebody else opted out. So what do you think Baker Mayfield has to do this year to hopefully not have to play in the Pro Bowl because he's playing in the Super Bowl, but to be a guy that's voted in as a Pro Bowl player, not an alternate, and dare I even say maybe get into the MVP conversation?
Like, I would much rather have that, right? I'd much rather have Baker be in the MVP conversation than the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl is so stupid.
I agree with that.
Anyone can go to the Pro Bowl now. And the fact that you look at Baker last year, historic numbers from the quarterback position, historic, all across the board to combine what he did, yards, completion percentage, touchdowns. He was a beast last year. And anyone with eyeballs that was watching knows that Baker Mayfield is a Pro Bowl quarterback. You don't even have to. You could just be listening. You know that Baker Mayfield is a Pro Bowl quarterback. So that accolade is so silly to me. When you have rookies now sometimes that are getting in as alternates, guys that had so mediocre at best stats getting in. I think Baker would tell you he has fun. He has fun there, and that's just the type of guy Baker is. He's a fun guy. But as far as stacking up the resume and putting that as an accolade, I don't think anyone cares. It's all pros. It's going out and winning MVPs and ultimately being able to, like you said, not go to the Pro Bowl and win a Super Bowl.
I would like Baker in the first month of the season to get MVP chance from the fans at Raymond James Stadium. The same way when Jalen Brunson goes to the foul line and everyone's chanting MVP. I want Bucs fans to show Baker that love. And I think they will. And let's remember, last year he had 4,500 passing yards. And 41 touchdowns, 43 overall with 2 rushing touchdowns.
I think over 70% completion percentage.
Yeah. I think it was 73% overall. Like, if he's able to get to 5,000 and maybe like 45 touchdown passes, between 45 and 50, that's got to put him in the conversation alone. I mean, he's got the name recognition for MVP.
He's got to cut down on the interceptions for that to happen. And if he does that, then there's no reason why he couldn't be in the MVP conversation. But if we could see a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio, and he throw around 5,000 yards and his completion percentage as well, that was the most impressive thing. Is his interception numbers were kind of high, but his completion percentage was fantastic. So it's kind of weird. Like, it seems like maybe every incompletion was an interception.
Someone's getting the ball one way or another. Let's talk about the defensive side real quick, then we'll get you out of here. Chris Braswell, second-round pick. You thought you were going to get a lot from him. Doesn't really crack the outside linebacker rotation. Even later on as the season went, he played less and less. They drafted David Walker this year. Obviously, there was the big move with Hassan Reddick coming to Tampa Bay. Do you feel anything for Chris Braswell? Do you think he can kind of like crack into the rotation this year? Are you optimistic about him, or is he just kind of like an afterthought for you?
No, he's definitely not an afterthought. No. Yeah, I'm optimistic about him. This league is hard. We've been talking. That's the theme of this podcast. This league is hard, and we're talking about these young guys. Of when it clicks, for some of them, it clicks at different times. Even though his usage went down, his ability and his production and it seemed to be better, like more valuable as he made bigger plays as the season went on. So I think that is kind of just the speed catching up with the speed. He's gonna have to take advantage of the opportunities when he gets them, because they could be limited. But you got to take advantage of it when you're in there. So I think he got better as the season went along, but you went out and got Hassan Reddick for a reason. You expect Yaya Diaby to get better. You bring in a draft pick at the position in Walker to be able to do it as well. So you got a lot of pieces there now. So what are you going to be able to do as far as getting your opportunities? When you do get your opportunity, you're just going to have to contribute, and that's it.
I feel like Braswell is kind of following the same timeline that he had when he was at Alabama, because he got to Bama, didn't have a lot of playing time. That, granted, there's a ton of talent at Bama, and then he gets drafted by the Bucs in the second round, and you expect a lot from your second-round picks, but it just wasn't in the cards for him. He's kind of waiting his time. Now that might be his opportunity this year or even after this season, depending on what happens with Hassan Reddick, if he's just kind of like a one and done. Because I could see 2 situations with Hassan Reddick where he's not back with the Bucs, because he's on a $10 million deal, Aaron. So it's either he doesn't live up to the hype and the Bucs don't want to bring him back, or he plays so well that the Bucs are like, you were great, but this is a one and done because we don't want to overpay for you.
Or the third option is he plays really well and the Bucs recognize it and go, hey, you like it here, you're having fun, you're comfortable. Like, we're going to give you some money. We can't give you everything. We're going to be honest. Can't give you everything you're going to get on the market. Now, he doesn't owe the Bucs anything as far as long discount. He did his first year here, but who knows? Maybe he gets comfortable. We live in it's a little hot out right now, but we live in a pretty cool area. So we'll see. But I know Jason Light, and I don't think it's just talk. Like, Jason Light, the guys inside this organization, they're really high on Braswell still, and they expect him to be productive. So what role that is, what capacity that is, who knows? But I expect him to take a big leap for this year.
I find it so funny that Hassan Reddick plays literally every team he's ever played for this season. Because obviously they play the Panthers. They've been on they're in the division. They play the Cardinals. And then 2 weeks in a row, they play the Eagles and the Jets. So he's literally going against every team that he's played against. So hopefully the sack numbers come in droves, especially early on against Philadelphia.
We over under. Does he get more sacks against the Jets in that game than he had for the Jets also?
So we're talking about over under 1, or I guess 1.5. If it's 1.5, I'm gonna say under. If it's 1, I'm gonna say it's a push, because the Jets have tried to revamp their offensive line and they have a mobile quarterback. So I'm gonna say push. But what about you?
Let's go over for the fun of the storyline.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, we'll definitely address that as it gets closer. How about the Bucs over 9.5 wins? You're a gambling fellow like myself. What do you see with that 9.5?
Pat and I do. We do like every month. We'll do like a new prediction and see if our schedule, once the schedule comes out, we'll go through it and we'll just be like, how does it change over a month? Because that's how it was. I've got them at 11-6. So
okay.
I've got them at 11-6. Just running through. I think the schedule is like, aside from a couple tough games that we know about, I think it's pretty manageable. Like you look at the Lions and that Eagles, Lions, Bills, Rams. That Bills stretch is a little tough, but aside from, you're gonna lose a division game or two. But aside from that, I just don't find it to be the most challenging like what they've had in years past. And like the 49ers are not the same team. Who knows what the Seahawks are going to be now with Sam Darnold. The Jets are the Jets. CJ Stroud had a sophomore slump kind of. But that team wasn't the same. We'll see they've had a lot of injuries. We'll see what they look like. Then you got to win your divisional games. The Cardinals are always middle of the road, and the Dolphins by the end of the year, who knows if two?
Yeah, they could play. They could definitely quit by then. I think just like last year, they got a good run at the end where they play a lot of inferior teams. They can kind of just stack up the wins and get the momentum. Now that didn't work when they played the Commanders in the postseason. But yeah, to me, there's a lot of like swing games where you're not sure about the team themselves. Like the Seahawks, what are they going to be with Sam Darnold? Are they going to be anything? I'm not ready to rule them out just yet. Same with the Patriots and a new coaching staff, and same with the Cardinals. Like they're so Jekyll and Hyde. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. in year 2. What are you going to get from Kyler? So there are a couple of ones that are like flexible, in my opinion, of not a guaranteed win, even though you want to on paper. But you got to let the season shake out in that sense. One last one for me. Tykee Smith is a guy that's going to have an even larger role this year. It looks like he's going to be starting at safety next to Antoine Winfield Jr. This is a guy that the Bucs have been so high on going back to last year when he had like his first rookie, practice with the team. Now all of a sudden he's going to be a starter. How do you think that helps the defense this year?
I think it's going to help a lot, and I think it's going to help Antoine Winfield Jr. I think this entire team, you have to have that help, and you have to be able to, and that's why drafting and being able to build up so you can give Tykee Smith an opportunity to make that huge leap in this year. I think it's another good job by the Buccaneers to be able to set that up. A good job by Jason Light to be able to put him now in positions where he can really thrive for this team. So I think sky's the limit for him as well.
I want them to play Tykee Smith as much as possible. I want him to be at 100% of the snaps, just like many of the other players. Aaron Jacobson, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. We really appreciate it. Follow him at Jacobson on Air, Pat and Aaron Show, Monday through Fridays on WDAE. Anything you want to plug right now?
Go Knicks. Listen to the Pat and Aaron Show, but go Knicks. Bing bong.
Go New York. Go New York. Go.
Yes, exactly. But thank you for having me on. I love coming on with you, and let's go play golf soon. Please.
Yes, absolutely. One of the best golfers in the world in Tampa Bay, Aaron Jacobson. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon.
You're the best. Thank you, man. Bye.
All right. Appreciate Aaron for coming on the show. Let's get into another topic right now. Let's talk about our friends over at Briar-Greaves Insurance. If you're a longtime podcast listener, you probably remember the late, great Mark Cook talking about Briar-Greaves Insurance. Pewter Report's Scott Reynolds has been a Briar-Greaves customer for years, and there simply isn't a better insurance company in the Tampa Bay area. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com to see for yourself. Briar-Greaves Insurance is family-owned, and their main goal is helping people. They want to help people find the right insurance policy for you and your family. So whether it's home or auto, boating insurance, or business insurance, turn to Briar-Greaves and find out why their personal touch and customer service sets them apart. The days of waiting on hold to speak with an insurance representative that you don't even know are over. With Briar-Greaves Insurance, you'll have a relationship with your agent who can answer your questions and advise you on the best policies. As 2 recent hurricanes have shown all of us that live in the Tampa Bay area, there is a cost to living in paradise. Briar-Greaves can help make sure you have the right hurricane and flood insurance to make sure you and your home are protected. So visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com today. That's Briar, B-R-I-E-R, Greaves, G-R-I-E-V-E-S. Call their office today at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166, and tell them that Pewter Report sent you. Also, want to give a big-time shout-out to all of our Pewter Report YouTube channel members, specifically our Pewter Platinum members. So thank you to Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel L. Rican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Zach Jarvis, Kevin Thomas, and Mario Thomas. Thank you all so much for your support of PewterReport.com. We greatly appreciate it. We will have a Pewter Insider coming up on Friday, going to talk about the Bucs wide receiver room and how stacked it is. Where does it compare to the rest of the league? So looking forward to that on Friday with our Pewter Report Platinum and Premier members. Had a super chat we want to get to. We'll get to some comments as well with Aaron hopping off the show. We'll do a little Q&A as we wrap things up. There was a Todd Bowles related question coming from Mark Fisher. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Appreciate your patience as well. As Mark says, hey guys, I'd love your thoughts on if Bowles is in danger of what got Tony Dungy fired back in the day. Success, playoffs, but too many questions for a Super Bowl. I think that's a really good question when it comes to Todd Bowles, because that was a big conversation we had last year when Liam Cohen was still here. It was like, hey, do you stay with Todd Bowles, who you know can get you to a certain point, or do you keep this juggernaut of an offense together and maybe let go of Todd Bowles and stick with Liam Cohen? Now, we learned a little bit more about Liam Cohen and how his word doesn't really mean anything, even though I'm not really angry at Liam Cohen about it. But you have the stability with Todd Bowles. And I don't think, and a lot will depend on what happens this season, but we're not at the point just yet where it's like Todd Bowles can't take this team any further. This year is going to be very telling about what Todd Bowles brings to the team, because he spoke all offseason about having the eureka moment, and he wants ball hawks and he wants playmakers. And, you think they got that with Hassan Reddick. They got that with David Walker, players that can take the ball away at the line of scrimmage. You're expecting a bounce back year from Yaya Diaby. What's going to happen in the secondary with Zion McCollum and Jamel Dean? Well, that's why you drafted the likes of Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish, guys that will come in and be lockdown, shutdown players. Todd Bowles has talked a lot about how he wants to get home with a 4-man pass rush to prevent a lot of these, big plays, a lot of this soft coverage, things like that. Zion McCollum has been on the show as well, saying that we're going to disguise coverages and things of that nature, make it a little bit more difficult to the opponent that Tampa Bay is going up against. But this is all coming from the brain and the ideas of Todd Bowles. If they don't get that proper adjustment that they are looking for, but they're a team that's still taking advantage of a weak NFC South, I think if Todd Bowles, he's certainly not on the hot seat by any means. And I think regardless of what happens this season, even if it's like a losing record, if it's a losing record based off of like injuries and things of that nature, I think 2 years from now is really the better opportunity to have that question. Because in that sense, this is what? Bowles, he took over in 2022. Yeah, so this is his 4th season. If they don't reach an NFC championship game by, say, the end of next season, then I think you can start having that Tony Dungy type of conversation of, oh, well, Bowles can only take them to this spot. Where can the next coach take them? And who knows who's going to be that next coach? Remember, John Gruden was a young, up-and-coming coach at the time. Todd Bowles is up there in age. Is Josh Broussard the answer? These are things that are so far away that I don't want to speculate anything. But it's a good question. I don't think Todd Bowles is there yet in terms of he can only take the Bucs so far. They're not a Super Bowl contender. But the next 2 seasons, I think, will truly give us our answer one way or another. And that lies a lot on Josh Broussard this season, but more specifically, Baker Mayfield and how much more he can, elevate his game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that goes into another comment I saw. Sorry, I was looking for another Baker Mayfield pick. Yeah, let's go with this one. Yeah, we like a scrambling Baker when it's for positivity. But Brent O'Neill says, NFC Championship or bust. I don't care about all the positive talk. Baker Mayfield is 30 years old now. No more excuses. Yeah, at some point, the lights got to go off for Baker, and he's been great the past 2 years, but there's still been little subtle mistakes here and there that have hurt the team in certain games. Like, I'd still rather ride with Baker than go with like a different type of quarterback. But Baker in his career, he's won some big games in the postseason. Like, he upset the Steelers with the Browns, went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. Then he had that big win against the Eagles with the Bucs and went toe-to-toe with the Lions, but ultimately fell short. Baker, I think, is in a 2-year window as well. I know he's in the 2nd year of his 3-year deal. But Baker needs to continue to stack the playoff wins because Lamar Jackson is in a spot where he's so great in the regular season that he's gotten a little bit more slack with not having that success in the postseason. Baker's not at the production level of Lamar Jackson just yet. And he's never going to outrun Lamar Jackson, but I just mean as far as like a winning quarterback goes, something needs to separate Baker a little bit more from some of these other big-time quarterbacks, whether it's Josh Allen, whether it's Lamar Jackson, and he can do that. There's a direct route for Baker Mayfield if he can stack up some more playoff wins, if he can get to an NFC championship game. That would help his resume, not that he's at like a Hall of Fame level, but that could just help his overall conversation standpoint. So I think for Baker, it's just as much the same case with Todd Bowles. Maybe not running him out of town necessarily, but a guy that needs to start stacking the playoff wins, or else it's going to be, well, he can only take you to maybe the 2nd round, but that kind of remains to be seen. One thing that I would love for everybody to go and see, and that's a local Walkons in your area.
Yeah, so what happened out there tonight?
We struck out at home with leftovers, then we remembered walk-ons.
What effect did the situation have?
Spirit soared. Nick took on a burger. Jen obliterated her ribeye po' boy. And speaking of spirits, Laura even scored a real tasty cocktail. She needed that.
Any lessons learned today?
Yeah. Head straight to walk-ons.
Scratch-made dishes, wall-to-wall TVs, craft beers, and cocktails. Walk-ons for the win.
Shout out to Walk-Ons and all the fantastic happy hour deals that they have on Monday from 3 p.m. to close. Tuesday, it's all day happy hour. That includes $5 Tito's. Wednesday, which is today, and Thursday, they have from 3 to 6. And then 9 till close. Maybe you want to go over there and watch the Knicks. Bing bong. You can do that over at Walk-Ons. They have TVs all over the place. Tons of fantastic food and drinks from the $3.99 pints to the $7 Boom Boom Shrimp and the $8 boneless wings. Eat like a winner and drink like a champ over at Walk-Ons. There's 3 in the Tampa location, 1 in Lakeland, another in Wesley Chapel, and a 3rd over in Midtown, close to Raymond James Stadium, close to where I live. So check out a Walk-Ons today, and you will not be disappointed. Just a scheduling update for everybody. We're not done with the shows tomorrow. We have another show at 4 o'clock. It'll be myself and Adam Slavon talking about the Bucs' biggest concern in 2025. We know injuries are always a big deal, but what other concerns could there be out there for your Tampa Bay Buccaneers that might derail their season? Friday, we will have a Pewter Insider talking about the Bucs wide receivers, where they stack up against the rest of the league, the stable that they have. Talk a little bit more about Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Jaylen McMillan, Emeka Egbuka, and Tez Johnson as well. So that's Friday. Monday, we do not have a show because it is Memorial Day, and we will be observing all of those that fought for our rights in this country. So no show on Memorial Day. Tuesday, there is a Bucs OTA, so we'll recap all of that. And then Wednesday, so a week from now on the 28th, Wednesday, we have one of our biggest shows to date as Bucs general manager Jason Licht will be joining the show. He came on last year. He's returning once again. And if it's anything like some of his other interviews he's done, whether it's with Pat McAfee or other hosts, it should be a great time. So very much looking forward to having Jason Licht on next Wednesday on May 28th. So that should be a lot of fun. Put that one in your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to another super chat and a couple of comments as well that I had saved. But super chats, of course, get to cut the line. So we'll start off with Meets McGee. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, I have my issue with Todd. His leaving ineffective personnel in way too long. Sorry, he's leaving ineffective personnel in way too long. But he does self-evaluate every offseason, which is a gift. Dungy was just too stubborn and had to be replaced. It's always a tough conversation for any coach in any situation where when is it too early or too late to kind of pull the plug on a certain situation, whether it's a veteran starter that may have lost a step, maybe a rookie that maybe isn't ready just yet, but you don't have a ton of other options. And, Aaron kind of talked about it before, Aaron Jacobson of the Pat and Aaron show, who was on earlier. Luke Gedeke was playing a completely different position. Now, the Bucs have done this before where they draft a small school tackle and then kick him inside, but it wasn't working inside. And maybe that was just because there weren't too many other options. The guy that they had in front, had an injury or a guy left, and then you're kind of stuck with Gedeke, but he's not ready for the job just yet. We could talk about Devin White a ton, about how he probably should have been benched even earlier, but Todd Bowles had his loyalty. But we've seen now with Jason Licht but not re-signing Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, not everything is going to be made available to Todd Bowles than maybe what he was able to have last year. So that's really important to keep in mind. Sometimes the front office wants you to play certain players, whether you like it or not. So I think with Bowles coming out this year and saying, I've found the issues with our defense, we're going to change this and this. I think with the fact that he hired a new coach that came from Jacksonville that was a game management organizer. The fact that he's hiring a new coach to come in and say, this is the right time to call a timeout. You should challenge this. You should challenge that. That's self-growth. That's self-evaluation like Meets McGee is talking about. And that's going to be super important. Steven Stansfield is getting mad as well about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka being a bust because of coaching. Well, and saying George Edwards, they moved George Edwards. He's now the passing game coordinator. He's not going to be defensive passing game coordinator. He's not going to be, developing these players directly the same way that some other coaches are. He's moving Larry Foote, who is a natural inside linebacker, back out to outside linebackers coach, where he coached Shaq Barrett and helped him break the Bucs franchise record in sacks. So he's making adjustments. He's trying to get the best out of everybody. And I think Todd Bowles deserves a good amount of credit for going out on a limb, understanding that he doesn't have the answers to everything, and kind of letting the coaches do what they need to do to get the best out of their players. Steven Stansfield had another comment as well, going back to Bucky Irving. Says, Bucky revenge game versus Falcons and the refs in week 1. Of course, there was that face mask call that was not called when Bucky was trying to ice out the game. He did fumble later on, but the face mask penalty that was not called on Bucky Irving would have given the Bucs a first down and a chance to seal the game. And who knows how the Bucs' fate would have ended. if that was called. Sal 319 talking about Baker Mayfield says, cut down on fumbles and interceptions. It wasn't kind of high. He led the league in turnovers, talking about Baker Mayfield. It's so interesting, right? Because when Baker got to Tampa, it was like, oh my God, is he going to be a turnover machine? Is he going to be the guy that, came in, slinging the ball all over the place and got a ton of interceptions? We already saw that with Jameis Winston. We don't need that once again. But no, that wasn't an issue at all, at least his first year. And then last year, while the interceptions did come about, the touchdowns far outweighed the production than some of the mistakes he made with throwing the interception. So he's going to need to improve that this year. There's no doubt about it. But it's not the back-breaking type of turnovers that we've seen in other years in Tampa Bay. The first toughest one for me with Baker last year was that Monday night game against the Ravens, which he threw the interception, I believe, on the second drive in the end zone when they were in the red zone. And that got the Ravens back into the game. And then we all know what happened with Chris Godwin later on as that game continued. Speaking of Chris Godwin, had one more comment I want to get to. This one from David Bartleson. Maybe we'll have time for one more as well. David Bartleson says, even if Godwin comes back healthy, we are going to go for wide receivers a lot. Yeah, I think that just has to do more with the personnel than necessarily trusting one guy or another. Chris Godwin's very talented, but so is Emeka Egbuka. You got to trust your guys, let them go out and do the right thing. Bat W says, number 5, Palmer, number 6, Shepard, and maybe a 7. I'd be surprised if the Bucs kept 7 this year, just because there's so much talent. But I mean, I guess if you had more talent, you'd keep more guys, but I think they might try to stash some more on the practice squad. Like Sterling Shepard is definitely going to be that practice squad guy. Cameron Johnson, what does he do for this team this upcoming season? I don't know just yet. I'm quite intrigued by it, but what I do know is that if you want to manage your money, the best people to work with are those over at Amuni Financial.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Amuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
That's right. Amuni Financial has proudly been serving clients across the country since 1980. They can help you with a number of things like annuities, sales and trading, and setting up a college account for your kid if they want to go to school. So the cool thing about Amuni Financial is that they have places all over the continental U.S., not just in Colorado or in Tampa, Florida. They have it in New York, Indiana, Minnesota, Oklahoma City. Those just happen to be the 4 teams left in the NBA playoffs. You can go to, I don't know who the Bucs play this year, Philadelphia or New Orleans, or who else they got on the schedule? Seattle, San Francisco. Where else? I think you get the point nonetheless. I'm going to pick one last random. Buffalo. You can go there and check out Amuni Financial. Give them a call, get a free consultation, see how Amuni Financial can help you. Just a reminder again, tomorrow we will be talking about the Bucs' biggest concerns in 2025. Is it Todd Bowles? Is it certain players? We'll get into all of that, myself and Adam Slavon on the show. Then, of course, we'll have a Pewter Insider on Friday talking about the Bucs wide receivers, where they stack, where they rank amongst the rest of the NFL. And then after a little time off with Memorial Day, we have an OTA preview. And on Wednesday, May 28th, special guest Bucs general manager Jason Light. Very much looking forward to that one. That's going to do it for us on today's show. In the meantime, if not already doing so, please follow us on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. We are almost at 19,000 subscribers. We are less than 200 subscribers away from 19,000. We'd love to get there before OTAs next week. So thank you, everybody, for your support. Leave a comment below in this video. So that's it for today. For Aaron Jacobson, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks, everybody, for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report Podcast. Out.